My thoughts to myself is that for a person that is normally quite confident, how weak I feel when I have any kind of assessment. It bodes fear into me because it's, what am I going to be asked next? This assessment is there supposedly to help, but it never is like a help. It's always like the Spanish Inquisition. It's always that sort of, what is going on? You need to tell us about this, etc., etc., etc. And it's just bombarding of calls and words. And I think that for anyone that goes through assessments, you need to almost have an assessment afterwards to be assessed. It's that situation of where that you need to have an assessment before you have the assessment to see if you can actually cope with the assessment. And it's a really weird situation to be in. When they're coming to assess you, they've got part of your life in their hands. So if they're assessing and then it's a negative, then you're going to lose something, either a service, you're going to lose money, or you're wanting to better your own health and social surroundings. And you've got to jump through hoops and rings where people don't know you. You're never going to see these people again, ever. And they've never seen you before in the first place. You've got at most an hour with that person, and they're going to assess you for whatever service that is, and they're going to ask you all these questions. How are they going to know? I know there needs to be processes, but I think that the processes need to be much more human, much more realistic. And I've had some good assessments, don't get me wrong, but I've had some assessments where that, I've sat there afterwards and I've just literally broke down, and there's no one to turn to.
I've had experience in the last year where my social worker didn't know the Care Act. I was quoting the Care Act to her. I'm not expecting every social worker to know the Care Act inside and out, but when they don't know the basics, it's really frustrating, especially when they're telling you things that are complete opposite to what's in the Care Act as fact. And it's only because of my voluntary work that I have gleaned information. I don't know the Care Act inside and out whatsoever, but there are some things that I just knew were outright incorrect, and it becomes very difficult and frustrating. I've also had some fantastic experiences and fantastic social workers over the years, so I know what it can be like, and I think that makes it harder. I had one social worker who seemed to take an instant dislike to me. That's how it felt. And the conversation just got worse and worse. That's where it's this fear factor comes in, because you're almost stumbling over yourself to not offend the social worker that holds all the power. She asked me for my daily logs, and I was like, what daily logs? I've never been asked to keep daily logs. And she became very angry and very insistent that I would have been told at some point to keep daily logs. I've had a direct payment for more than a decade. I've never even heard the term daily logs from a social worker. And she was saying it would have been in the contract that you initially signed. It wasn't. I didn't have it to hand at that point, but I later found it. She said that she could not review me without daily logs. It was impossible to evidence my need, I think is how she phrased it. But every other social worker has evidenced my need by talking to me. Then she started the threat of, no, we will have to reassess you, your need has changed, and you need to complete these daily logs. It's impossible to review you without. And this conversation ended with her storming out of my house and refusing to complete the review. To my shock, a few weeks later, she sends me the review document of the review that she refused to complete, which she has now completed in her own time, using a lot of imagination. So I laugh now. At the time, it was not funny. The lies in this review had me in tears at the time. She had just made things up.
I never realized the intimacy that was involved in actually having to bear all to anybody about your needs. And being completely helpless, not being able to do anything for myself, I felt like I was overwhelmed with the questions I was being asked, because even though it was pretty evident that I couldn't do anything and connect the dots, that wasn't taken into account. It was just about the fact that we only have this to offer. So you work around this, or else we can't help you. I've never been in a system to that extent where I knew what was available, what wasn't available. I've never experienced what I experienced then. So how am I supposed to have an idea whether you do supply this or you don't supply this? I should know all of this somehow. I don't. I'm asking you, can you please help me? Help means help. It's about what can you do for yourself? and what could help you to live a reasonably supported life where you can function and feel valuable again in society. And also, when you're asking for things, you're asking because you're wanting to find out what is available. How do you know what you need? Only by experience, surely. I have to go through the experience, see what works or doesn't work. Now my house literally doesn't suit my needs. So come and help me to support me through that process. And the other thing which got me really upset was to be told that the company that I had been using, I couldn't make them my choice. I've got to get another person who I've got to train to know how my system works in my kitchen. It's another job for me. And I've just gone through 6 to 8 weeks with these people who know me backwards. What are you saying? What's the difference? Oh, no, we don't do it like that. I mean, what does that mean? We don't do it like that. Why can't you do it like that if it suits me and my needs? And then, of course, the financial side of it as well. It's amazing what you're supposed to know.
I realise how fortunate I am. I'm not rich, but I'm fortunate because the care I do receive each day is a fundamental and important part of my day, but it is the least important part of my day because I have other things to do and other things that I've chosen to do self-directedly, whether that be work, go down the pub, whatever. So I recognise the fortune in that. Shouldn't be fortunate. It should be how everybody lives their life, and that's partly the reason I advocate on it. But I'm still in this position where I don't want to know all of the records that are held about me. I've got no interest in what that paperwork says. I've got no interest in my life, my complexity, very humanity being summarized on a piece of paper. And I've seen people that I care for just put the assessment in the bin the moment the social workers left the room. And we don't really realise the interventionist nature of one person always thinking that they have the right to ask personal questions upon, and it's always the same questions. The way that we do assessments is wrong on every level, but it's a boring process, and it's a process that doesn't seem to ever change. And I think it's because we're still in a position where it talks about the care rather than the things that the care enables you to do. I would sit down with anyone to talk about the next holiday I want or the next meal out with my friends that I want. Absolutely, 100%. And that is what the assessment is allowing you to do, if done well. The last assessment I did was when I was at university, by the way. So the very word is scrutiny and investigation, surveillance, somebody knocking on your door and giving you an assessment. Can I do your assessment? And it is indeed that investigative assessment is indeed pointless, really, because I will have cerebral palsy until the day I die. So I had it the day I was born, and I will, like everybody else, acquire other things, but I'll always have the cerebral palsy and I'll never be able to walk. These are just banal statements. So there is a point at which I cannot see the value in an assessment regarding my cerebral palsy. If we positioned the annual assessment as an over-the-brew conversation where you say to me, George, how has your life changed in the last 18 months? And therefore, how do we adapt the people that are around you so that you can meet the challenges or meet the joys that are new in your life or compared to where you were 18 months ago? Great. Because my life changes on a weekly basis. And the moment I think I've hit a routine and it's all working, and I'll get a commission from here or a conversation. But that's not an assessment. That's a conversation. And it's actually a conversation that can happen with me and my friends, because it should be a reallocation of resources, not a taking away of resources. Because what I'm saying to you is what I do has changed. Not so much my needs have changed. They somehow think that conversations like this are just frivolous. That money is, to use that Boris Johnson term, just spat up the wall. And it's not. Because I'm just as likely as everybody else not to turn up to that assessment that you want me to do. And I'm very likely, indeed, I did it this year, to just push my social worker back and back. Because I don't need that conversation. That conversation is a waste of my time and a waste of your time. And there's just some sort of act here, some legislation that says it's a statutory duty. But why can't the conversation be a statutory duty? But I don't know the answer to that question. I think, if I may say so, it would solve so many of our democratic problems, not just with the disabled community, with communities in general that feel left behind, deindustrialized communities that feel unheard. If we just said simply, we all have a duty to have conversations with those that we interact with about how we can make their life the best it can possibly be. And that isn't just disability related, that's community related, which is why we need to pull social care and the values of social care that work out of this industry and into our places and spaces. To articulate it's not that hard, but to do it within these broken systems is frankly impossible. And I don't know why.
You mentioned something about the experience being better recently. What was it that was better?
They came in with a blank sheet of paper and said, what do you need? And that approach for me was a much more relaxed approach, but also gave me time to adjust and get used to working with other people. They took that time to find out what I could actually still do, what I couldn't physically or mentally or otherwise do. And they also made sure that when they did allocate the time, it was enough time not to rush me through the processes again. That to me made a difference because I was able to be enthusiastic about them coming into my house because I didn't feel bullied.